cocktails, and movies. We'll dive into an all-time favorite film or explore some of the latest releases, but we'll always pair it with a delicious cocktail and share our thoughts and opinions and some fascinating behind-the-scenes trivia. I am Kirsten Jackson. I'm a blogger and cocktail influencer at lowcountrysocialite.com.
I'm Terrell Bernard, and I watch movies from the 90s and enjoy them.
And, following those two introductions, I don't know what else to say other than I'm Jeff. I was forced to be here against my own will.
Yes, very much so.
We told him we would punch him in the arm if he didn't join us. So.
In the arm.
So it is what it is. But yes, we are back again. Episode 2 of season 4. We are moving right along. How y'all doing, Jeff? What's going on?
Doing good. Good. Happy that we it's actually March 1st or 2nd, y'all. Like we literally are in March. Like we blinked. And now we're in March. It's crazy.
This year is flying.
And it has been a rough couple of months. Like this year already feels like it's been a whole year. It's been a rough couple of months.
Not a year within a year.
It's been a rough year, and it's only what, March?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah, it's been a rough one, but all good. You guys have any projects going on? Anything you guys are working on?
That's the story of my life. I'm always working, so I never can sit still. Just work. Work has got me going. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I'm traveling to Jack Daniel's distillery, so picking out a couple barrels at Jack Daniel's. So that should be fun. But I'm always on the go. We're closing out our fiscal year, so this is a good release to kind of turn my brain off because I've been thinking about work 24/7. So
yeah,
that's everything I got going on.
Yeah, Terrell, what about you? You got anything going on?
Nope.
Just work, huh?
I'm out here, you know what I'm saying, just hustling and grinding, you know what I'm saying, just keeping my head above water, making some waves when I can, you know what I'm saying.
Wow, hustling and grinding.
Yeah,
wow. Well, and raising them babies, my boy.
Always. Hopefully they don't bust in here. So
yeah. Well, nothing going on for me either. Just a bunch of work and some events coming up and to go to. So stay tuned to our social media. I'll be sharing some of that stuff there too. But yeah, today's episode ought to be a lot of fun, and it's my pick this week.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Because it's Women's Month. Wait, is it March Women's Month?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
It is. Oh.
And you're damn right. So
you better
therefore,
Jaheim, put that woman first, Terrell. You better go home and get some flowers, brother.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, for the whole month, we get one flower a day.
you will get one apple for the day. Wow. Did you say that was kind of genius? Don't take no tips from Terrell.
Okay. I am bad with that. So. Whatever I say, do the opposite of that. You'll be all right.
Oh God.
Noted.
Well, yes, it is Women's Month, and what more perfect way to start off Women's Month with me choosing the movie and it being a woman-led film, and we're going to talk about it today. We're talking about 1993's Poetic Justice, directed and written, produced by John Singleton. So we have actually we've talked about Poetic Justice before, but I don't think it's one of those episodes that went to publish. Terrell?
Oh, okay, yeah, because I was thinking that when you said it, I was like, seems familiar. Seems like we already did it, but oh well.
It's one of those that's in the drafts. So, but yeah, Poetic Justice.
Release both just to see.
Oh no.
I would like to hear how the first one sounded.
No, you don't. So, but yeah, so Poetic Justice. It is. Well, you know what? Let's talk about our history with the film. I'm gonna kick it over to Jeff. Jeff, what's your history with this film?
You know, I don't remember going to the movie theater to see this one. Probably was, yeah. I guess that's why I don't remember it, because I wasn't old enough to get into a rated R movie by myself in 1993. But it's a cult classic, you know what I mean? And I got a few things after I revisited it. Why is it a cult classic? But yeah, it's definitely a fun. Listen, young, vibrant, fine Janet Jackson. I'm gonna probably reference that about 5 times in this episode, because that woman does not age. Like, Janet Jackson is a timeless beauty. But I digressed. It's a really good movie. You know what I mean? And I feel that if this is one of the things I was telling you in the last episode, like, this got to be in your black card, you know, regimen. Like, these are one of the movies that when you're checking somebody's black card, if they've never seen Poetic Justice, then you got to start questioning your friend circle. Like, are you really down for the culture? But yeah, it's definitely one of those, you know, cult classes. But well, I'll save my thoughts for later.
Somebody looks offended.
Shut up. Terrell, what's your history with the film?
Let's see. I don't remember much. This was 1993. I know I did not see this in movie theater. I'm pretty sure I saw this at my sister's house on VHS.
That sounds about right.
Probably, yeah. I mean, because I don't think we saw it like together. So yeah, this is one of those ones. But yeah, this is definitely a movie that over time has grown on me. Because you know how you see a movie like, I don't think I'm gonna watch that again, and then somebody's got it on, and you put it on. Okay, it gets a little better and better each time you watch it. So I was like, by this last viewing, I was like, got a lot of things going on here. Can't wait to talk about it.
Okay, cool. Well, my history with the film, I really don't know the first time that I saw it, but I know one thing that I remember probably even more than I remember the film is the buzz around the film. Like, I remember being so excited for this movie to come out. And I remember all of the, like, just the talk about it. And I think that if I'm remembering correctly, you know, because it was led by 2 musicians turned actors, like, MTV was like talking about it a lot, and like BET was talking about it a lot. I remember on the music stations, you know, like, music stations are much different now, but like, they were just talking about it, and just also just generated a lot of buzz, you know, and seeing Jackson on screen. And so I remember being very excited about it. I don't think I saw it in the movie theaters, because I feel like I don't think my mom would have taken me to see that. However,
well known fact.
So I don't know how I saw it. I must have rented it. I don't know, or maybe it came on TV. I really can't remember, but I remember loving it. I remember being I knew who Stevie Wonder was, obviously, but being introduced to the deep cuts, you know, with the music that played, like, the soundtrack was incredible. And
even though all the songs aren't on the soundtrack, which is crazy to me.
Definitely.
So, you know, I guess I've never actually looked at the actual soundtrack. I just like listening to the songs and the music. So it's one of those where you buy the soundtrack and you're like, yeah, I'm about to hear, what the hell is this? Like that?
Right. Yes. Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Well, all right then. Because I love that TLC song that's in Get It Up. You know that. So I like that. Deep cut. But yeah, so but yeah, it's one of it's one of my favorite movies, but to me, it's a movie that's like kind of like in the same vein as Set It Off. Like if it's on TV, I'm going to watch it, and it probably should have been listed in the episode that we did a couple of weeks ago with our rewatchables, because
Right.
I've watched this and Set It Off like multiple times. So, but anyway, yeah. So, and Terrell, I'm gonna give you a break today. And I don't do that very often, you
I
know.
know, right? That's a
Yeah.
first. So let's see what's going on. What break am I getting today?
Well, it's time for a 60-second recap, and I really feel like the best way to really introduce our newest host would be trial by fire.
Okay.
hmm So we're gonna put 60 seconds on the clock, and Mr. Jeff is going to give us a 60-second recap of our film. So our audience knows what we're working with.
All
Whenever
right.
you're ready.
Cool. Let me know. Just tell me
Right.
when to go.
Well, I'm about to put 60 seconds on the clock right now. All right. 3, 2, 1.
All right. So this movie is about two gentlemen that are actually working at the post office that are traveling across state to go to Oakland, assuming that they are in LA, driving to Oakland to drop off some mail. They want to have female company, so they invite one. The character's name is Chicago, his girlfriend, and his girlfriend invites her friend Justice, who is played by the beautiful Janet Jackson. So Lucky, by the late great Tupac, is the one that's driving. They get a chance to go across country, but they run into a lot of issues on this road trip. A lot of things that we'll talk about on this episode. And Justice, as well as Lucky, will end up happily ever after getting together, living in lovely bliss, if you will, in the movie Poetic Justice. Mic drop. That's it.
Okay. Okay.
Boom.
Got it.
Jeff, that
Under
was something.
time.
That was
Under the
some.
time.
That was something.
Appreciate it. It was definitely something.
So you spent 60 seconds just really describing how fine you thought Janet Jackson was, and
I could go on and on about that.
yeah, we asked for plot, sir. All right, so you failed that. All right, so let me mark that down on your sheet. Just kidding. Beautiful job, Jeff. Beautiful job. All right. Well, so let's get into our cocktail, because we gotta have something to sip, right? And
Word.
Exactly.
we are pulling out, since we're talking about the old cuts, we're pulling out an old cut that we used last season. We got the Gentleman Jack again. We'll be using that for our cocktail. So what we're going to make is a Lucky's Lemonade. All right, so
Okay.
we're going to take our shaker and fill it with some ice. And we are going to use 2 ounces of this. All right, so I'm just gonna. It was a heavy pour I just did. I don't think y'all saw it, but
I heard it.
I'm not mad at
heard
it. All right, then we're going to. So we were sent a box of syrups and shrubs from Rootman. We're going to use a vanilla and fig. All right, moving on.
Yeah, we don't need that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, caps is sick.
Yeah. It was really just in the way.
You meant to do that. Absolutely.
I really need to clean off my desk. That's the problem. So we're going to use 1/2 ounce of that in our shaker and put that over there safely so I don't knock it over without the cap on. And because it's lemonade, we're just going to add a couple of splashes of lemonade in there. And put our top on our shaker. And give it a shake.
Shake, 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 Sonora. Shake it all the time.
There you go. We got some two-handed work going here, filling our rocks glass with ice. And then we're going to pour into our shaker. And I'm going to top it with a little ginger beer, just for a little buzz here.
It's fancy. I like it.
There we go. And there we go. And if you're feeling sexy, you can garnish it with a lemon wheel, but I don't have one. So here we go. And that's our lucky lemonade.
You don't have one. What happened to it? I thought you bought the whole supply.
My lemon wheel? They're in the refrigerator. I didn't get them. This is nice. Nice. So here we are. Mm-hmm. Lucky lemonade for life's bittersweet moments.
Nice.
So yeah. So let's get into it. Let's do a little technical stuff before we get into the meat of our film. So, Poetic Justice, released in July of 1993. It stars the beautiful Janet Jackson, Tupac, Shakur, Regina King, Joe Torre. And let me just say, one of my favorite things about this movie, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself because I feel like it's going to be one of my best, worst, weirdest, but the ensemble cast, that's like the best thing about 90s movies. Like they would stack the cast. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had Joe Torre, we had Tone Loc, we had Q-Tip. I mean, it's wonderful. It's so many people. I think we even had little Maya Campbell in there around the end.
Yes.
Khalil's little sister.
Oh yeah. Yep, sure did. Yep.
So yeah, the cast, it was very stacked. I'm like, dang, John Singleton, okay. Yeah, get everybody. And also, like, one of the most impressive things for me was that John Singleton was only 25 when this movie came out. And it was right on the heels of Boys in the Hood, which was an explosive success. So it means he was only like 23, 24 when Boys in the Hood came out. So, like, I mean, we already know how incredible he was, but it's just like for him to be that young and to make these films that have just done really like critically well, and it's just amazing. But yeah, he was very, very young. But yeah, so it was written, directed by John Singleton, 25 years old, distributed, production company was Columbia. The shoot location was South LA. It had a budget of $14 million and gross $27.5 million. So it was a commercial success. Unfortunately, Rotten Tomatoes has given it a 34%. But I don't think I looked to see. Right. You know, we've talked about it before. Like, Black films are just like real critically judged unfairly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I know that is like the critic score, but I don't know the audience score. I feel like it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't there, but I don't know.
Pretty sure it's high. If I'm willing to guess, it was high.
Yeah. But yeah, we as far as like the representation in the film, I think it's a good representation of Blackness. There's a lot of female representation, even a bit of queer representation. You know, we have some of the hairstylists in the salon, they are queer coded. So, but yeah, I think, you know, that representation is there. There's also class struggle when we look at poverty and the violence. But yeah, so that's just some of the technical stuff about the film. So let's get into it. Did you guys enjoy this rewatch? Because, you know, you said you've seen it before. Did you guys enjoy this rewatch? Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Uh-oh. Kicking it over to me.
Kick it over to you.
Have you ever heard like people say you can watch a movie over and over again and then you look at it with a different set of eyes? So in 2025, I feel like we literally have a different lens A lot of things that they say that could have passed in the 90s won't fly in 2025. So, good afternoon. How you doing? We got a first comment on YouTube.
Good
Good stuff.
afternoon.
Yeah. Hey there.
But yeah, so I feel like in 2025, because of the social climate that we live in now, there was a lot that was kind of like clutch pearls moments. You know what I mean? Where it's like, wow, like in the 90s, yeah, it was cool to see Janet Jackson and Tupac, get into acting. Obviously, Janet Jackson had already been into acting, but I think this was Tupac's second film after Above the Rim. So, it was like, all right, cool. Some of my favorite musicians are in this movie. But when you really start breaking down like the dichotomy of the movie, and then you start looking at like the things that were happening, I'm like, what? I'm actually lost to see what the actual plot was. So when you were asking about the plot, I'm like, you know what? It's actually there's a lot of loopholes. There's a lot of things that I kind of question about the movie now in 2025 that I did in 1993. Like what is the message of the film? Like that's my biggest question. Like, what was the message of the film? Because we saw a lot of ups and downs. We saw a lot of, to be honest, we saw a lot of just like heartbreaking things from the crackhead, baby mama. You know what I mean? First of all, let's talk about the structure of the family, right? How is acceptable that he has a baby mother, right? Him and Tone Loc, Tupac and Tone Loc, are joking about being co-parents, right? Like they both got kids by the baby mama. Well, she calls me dad too sometimes. What you mean? My daughter never's gonna call you dad. So it was like it was a hidden joke. I guess they banded together as brothers, beating up the new guy that was in the bed with the cracked out, baby mom. And it's like, one, I question both of their, judgment in women, that the fact that literally if crackhead, whatever, baby mama was the only one on the list, one, why are you sleeping with this woman? And secondly, why are you not protecting yourself sleeping with this woman? Because I mean, maybe a baby is the least of your worries that you should be worried about catching from this woman, because it looked like she was the local one stop for the neighborhood. But I digress. I'm just saying. Everybody had a turn. It's like a bus stop.
Let me kick it over to Terrell.
Said you kicked it over to me too soon. It was just a little gut wrenching. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, it was just one bad thing after the next. It was never a point where the movie, if this is a love story, right? I think that's what the overall message is supposed to be, but it is really a love story in the rough. Like you got to really scratch through and dig the beauty out of this very rough, very rugged, jagged piece of rock or ice, glass, whatever you want to call it, for this movie that is supposed to be called Poetic Justice. It was nothing poetic about it. I don't know where the justice came in, but yep, that's where I'm going. I mean, I know that Janet Jackson's character was named Justice, but again, outside of her doing poetry, you know what I mean? She had an alcoholic mama. It was a lot. It was a lot. By the time I got off this, I had a for real like struggle with just staying motivated in life. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. Wow. It almost changed the trajectory of your life. You had to struggle to stay motivated.
I mean, I was just being dramatic, but at the end of the day, it was again with the 2025 lens that I watch now. It was kind of a hard watch to just see, because especially when we talk about representation, it's like, is that really an accurate? Again, I always say that art is imitating life, or life is imitating art. So I get it. It's somebody's story. If it's not the three of us, this is somebody's story and somebody that lives with it. But when it comes to the overall representation, and I get it, sometimes we sometimes have to be mindful of what we put out. But again, it's not my story per se, but I can definitely appreciate the representation. It was a star-studded cast, beautiful Regina King as well. Of course, I'm always shout out all the women, but yeah, you know what I mean? It was just a lot of things that I definitely liked about the movie, but in 2025 was a lot of things that I was like, can't get away with that in 2025. That's for sure. So
fair enough. Terrell?
All right. What was the question?
Not just opening thoughts.
Opening thoughts. Okay. I think Jeff said it all. But I think the movie definitely struggled with the plot. But I think that was because John Singleton was a young director coming out. I think he made his first film coming right out of out of film school, and this was his second feature. And he tried a lot of different things artistically that I was like, that's interesting. And you don't really see stuff like that in films like that anymore. It's like you saw that, I was like, that's an interesting way to shoot that, or that's an interesting way to introduce this character. That's an interesting way to introduce the whole film. Because if you look at the beginning of it, start off as the actual movie. It starts off as another movie, and then it goes into the actual movie. So I thought that was great. And then like the close-up shots of Janet Jackson listening to the Stevie Wonder song, I thought that was shot beautifully. I was like, it was a lot of things that I liked more than I disliked about the film. And I don't know if it's just because I like the cast, I like the director, or if it was that I liked it when I was younger, and it's still like something like you like, I liked it when I was younger, so I still like it. So
yeah. I would say that watching it when I was younger, I mean, I was just amazed by this film. I mean, it was like watching your favorite. I mean, it wasn't like, it actually was watching your favorite artist in motion, like Janet Jackson on screen, in long form content other than like music videos, Tupac on screen, in this long way. That it was exciting. Now that I am old and I watch movies a little more critically now, I'm like, oh, there are some things. I still think it's a great film. But I think that the goals that this film were trying to accomplish were kind of missed. I think that this, a lot of people, when this film was first presented, was like, oh, this is a woman's film. It's because it's woman led, and and John Singleton went on record saying this is not a feminist film. This is not a woman's film. You're gonna have feminists be mad at me, but there are some themes that are like, ooh. And I also think so. A large driving force in this film is Maya Angelou's poetry, which is, it's Justice's poetry, but it's originally written by Maya Angelou. So, and I feel like there are some parts in the film like that are like anchored by this poetry, like the poems come in, and it's like, this movie is not really living up to the majesty that is Maya Angelou's poetry. And there's like a scene in particular where, and I'm sorry to jump ahead all the way to the end, but like when Lucky is mad at her and accuses her of, making him miss his cousin being killed. And then Phenomenal Woman starts being recited. And it's like,
yeah, where did that come in? Yeah, I don't know either.
If you're gonna do Maya Angelou though, you have to do
yeah, and it was like, well, we gotta,
a requirement.
It's a requirement. Phenomenal Woman would be a requirement. And it was like, well, we're gonna just choose the most electric, the most charged part of the movie, and then we're gonna pump that poem in there. And it was like,
well, I can appreciate that it was done in Janet Jackson's voice and not Maya Angelou's voice. Phenomenal Woman would have not hit us home if Maya Angelou, Dr. Maya Angelou.
Fair enough. But yeah, I was like, this is a little off. And there are some, like, other things that I did not really appreciate as an older woman, especially as an older woman that is single. The whole advice through the film was, Justice, you just need to find a man.
Mm.
Justice. You say it all the time because you ain't sex. And then if you find a man, you'll be happy again. And men are tools. And you lose one, and you just get another one. It was like justice is depressed. And so maybe
Yes.
we ought to we ought to tackle that first.
Telling you.
But yeah.
But I think
And
they were just dealing with the tools that they had at that time. I mean, in the
absolutely.
early 90s, like,
Mhm.
you're not depressed, you just sad. You'll be all right.
Yeah, all you do is eat something.
Better get it together. Yeah.
Life was so much simpler back then. To solve your problems, get in a new relationship. So hey, why not?
Go.
Yeah, and I'm not just saying that, oh, these people are just, uninformed or stuff. Yeah, I think Terrell is right. You have to use the tools that are in your toolbox.
Yeah.
However, like in this current day lens, it's like, no, maybe like probably 93% of this movie wouldn't have happened if these characters were in therapy.
That's what I was gonna say. You took the words out of my mouth.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but that's a modern day take. So, but being back then, like, because I will say this, like, as I was watching this as a young person, I was like, look, he's a good guy. He trying. He doing his best. And now I'm like, oh, like the bottom of the barrel, like,
Yeah.
okay, the Tupac, because he's incredible, but guess how Lucky was trash.
Yeah.
Lucky was the shiniest piece of trash in the trash heap.
Okay. He was the top layer of expired meat in the dumpster. It was edible still, but
like if you threw away your lasagna, you're like, oh shit, I didn't even throw that away, and you be like, it's on top.
Oh, okay.
Should I get it's on? It ain't in the tray. It's on top. Can I reach in there and get it? So yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I mean,
Lucky
knew his daughter's mother had a drug problem, and look, a drug problem, those things happen. And they happen to good people. That's fair. But so it was okay until
Yeah,
it wasn't.
because it wasn't like it was a secret. You still basing? That was like the opening statements. Hey, how you doing? You still basing? Like it wasn't even like really a warm up to it or whatever. It's just
nah, she ain't still basing. I know if she was still basing. Come to find out, she was still basing, and you didn't know.
It was a very active addiction. And I was like, dang, this scene would have been better received if it would have been like, a pipe, and like nobody knew. But
like, what is this? Are you basing? Like,
right. I agree. You could have jazzed that thing up. She could have been a lawyer or something like that, and then really, like took you left. Like, and she bases what? Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah. Like, because I watch these movies and I'm like, I think this is what I would have done, and I am by no means a movie director, but it's just my thoughts. And I'm like, who in the hood has like a candy dish with a crack pipe in it? I was like,
terrible. That is terrible.
I'm pretty sure that candy had been sitting there for years. You know that candy dish with the candy that just be in there. It ain't got no rhyme or reason. Don't nobody ever get none. It's all dried out.
Tell you.
You know that shit bad if the kids don't even eat it.
Exactly.
That's
Both of the kids, ain't nobody watching them, and they not eating the candy. Something was wrong with the candy.
Exactly.
That candy looked fresh. Now, if it had been looked like halfway melted, I would have been like, that's a believable scene. But yeah, that was but it's a lot of different themes in this movie that I'm like, that's not so well received. Like just like Jeff said, like in today's climate, that wouldn't be so well received. But I do have a question for you guys that I'm going to ask and then answer, and then ask you guys. So I do think that one of the major themes of this film is grief. And I do think that this movie does do a really good job of portraying Black grief and trying to heal from that. Um, so I feel like, we have, even though these things were very either mentioned or they were like very short scenes, but we see loss, we see trauma, we see gun violence, we see poverty, we see just really the common everyday, well, drug addiction, we see the common everyday struggles of just being a Black person trying to survive, especially in an urban inner city area. um and I think that this movie, it's did a beautiful job of positioning Justice as a Black woman who is actively going through depression and grief, and showing her moving through life. Because I don't think it's talked about enough that, because when we talk about depression, usually it's, surrounded by talks of, being in the bed all day, or binge eating, or being sad all the time. But most people who are experiencing depression have jobs, they have families, they have to keep going. And I don't think it's talked about enough about how people keep going and they carry grief with them. And it influences their choices and the things that they do. Um, I also think that this film did an amazing job of showing. So this film, I would say that this film is it's a road trip film. Like it's a road trip. But it was this journey of healing. Like the stops they made, it felt like they were just getting stronger with every stop.
See what you did there. I like that. Well played. Road trip and making stops on a journey.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I am here to entertain.
Yeah, I like that.
And to teach the masses. But but yeah, I like the first stop with the family reunion. And I haven't been to a lot of family reunions. I've had a few in my life, but I know like the feeling that you take away after that, like that just getting together, it's almost like being recharged and like rejuvenated by just being surrounded by your family. Or even just like when you have a good guys night out or girls night out, just like the feeling that you get afterwards, like hanging out with people. And then going to the African festival, and just like how the characters of Justice and Lucky were like these hard characters, and then you almost like see them soften and their sharp edges get more round, and just like them growing, even just with that scene. So I think this film did a great job with that. Jeff, why are you looking like that?
I'm gonna save mine. I didn't see no sharpened edges on my side of the screen, but you go right ahead.
Oh my.
You're being very poetic for this poetic movie, so please take us on this journey on your metaphors.
Thank you. And now I will read my next poem.
Exactly. Is incense burning in your background? Is some incense back there?
It is. It
All right.
is. But no, I think like the characters, like Lucky, they just got done cussing each other out, and then now they're softening, and he's playing with her hair and asking her thoughts, and she's actually talking to him, because before she had no words for him. So I actually think that even though I don't necessarily agree with you needing a man to like heal you, I do think that the healing process can be communal. Like you can heal when you get with your family and let people support you and let people be kind to you and open yourself up to people. So I do think that the film did get that portion right. Anybody want to take that question? It was just basically, what does this movie show us about grief?
Oh,
okay. I'll jump in. I think even you well said, by the way, too, Kristen, that sorry, Kirsten. Do you like Kirsten or Kirsten? Because I always think of Kirsten Dunst, and it's always weird to say Kirsten.
You do whatever the spirit leads you to do.
Okay, Kirsten. So, yeah, no, I feel like that in terms of grief, to your point about, because it is a love story, right? And the movie is centered around justice, right? So the reason why it's poetic justice, because justice was poetic, right? She was a person that wrote. But what I would think that was the double entendre with the poeticness or the poems that were obviously Maya Angelou's poems was that that was her outlet, right? So in the midst of her grief, I feel like she found a healthy outlet. So she was able to get those out, those feelings out, and, you know, kind of turn it into something beautiful, which was poetry, right? We're not going to talk about it as being plagiarized poetry, but still, it was poetry, right? So she had an outlet, you know what I mean? And the unique thing about that is that within that film, it was so many different vices, whereas so many others, like her friend, you know, was an alcoholic. So she turned to alcohol to remind her and kind of, you know, brought up past traumas or undealt with traumas from her mother and things of that nature. So other people found different outlets to channel whatever grief or whatever they were going through. And she found something that was creative, that wasn't, you know, addictive. I mean, you could call it addictive if she's addicted to writing poetry, but it was a healthy outlet, you know, versus, you know, just turn into something that, you know, could potentially harm herself. So I would argue that the positive spin on the entire movie was, in the midst of all of her grief, in the midst of all of Tupac's grief, that they needed each other. So it wasn't that she just needed a man, they needed one another, because Lucky had a lot of stuff that he was going through, and Justice had a lot of stuff she was going through. And through their, I hate to say trauma bonds, but honestly, you know, it kind of really was a trauma bond. They both had something that they could relate to in terms of her getting her boyfriend getting killed, her first true love getting killed by gun violence, his cousin getting killed by gun violence. They were able actually to come together on that and live happily ever after. But that's the only good critique I could say, that it was like a wonderful, you know, trauma bond, or just them needing each other and they helped heal each other. Now, this is the pre-Baby Boy of Baby Boy. If you really, that's what came to me yesterday.
Yeah, I was thinking that when I was watching.
It was the pre-Baby. I don't know what John Singleton was going through when he was going through writing these movies, but this is the pre-Baby Boy. This is Baby Boy 1. And Baby Boy, the movie that we know, is Baby Boy 2. Every aspect of it. And there's carryover from Boys in the Hood. Did y'all peep that the guy that killed Q-Tip is the same guy that killed Ricky in Boys in the Hood? Same dude. Same dude. Yeah, with the same with the shotgun nose.
With the shotgun.
Yep. But yeah, you know, so I'm like, all right, John, like, what's going on in your personal life, bro? Like, why is all these baby mamas, like, why is all these with all these baby mamas? Why is there so much game? But I mean, we're talking about the early 90s in LA, and it was, you know, Bloods and Crips were going crazy and gang violence. So those stories did need to be told and shed a little bit light on life in LA. But like I said, it was a precursor to Baby Boy. It was a lot of, you know what I mean, Yvette and Jody-like behavior and a lot of this. And you got to think about, like what I said, clutch pearls moments. Like the first part of that road trip was not like oh, yay, we're going on a road. He cussed that woman out and kicked her out of the mail truck. Like, no respect for a woman. He kept calling her outside of her name. You know what I'm saying? Called her every type of female dog you could call her. And you know, after a while, then everything is cool. Let me just talk to my girl. She could be stubborn. Regina King gets her finally to come back in the truck. And she was like, they still gonna fuck you out. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like one of those things where it was like, all right, could that really happen? Like, I get it's a movie, right? So for the sake of the movie and everything, how do you turn from being arch enemies to now we butt naked in the fields under the Jason Lyric Act having sex for the first time unprotected, by the way? And then, you know what I mean, just going into the sunset, living happily ever after. It's a lot of loops. It's a lot of holes in this story. It's a lot of, you know what I mean, like that would never happen in real life. Because I know for sure if a woman is getting disrespected, called outside of her name in fights, because you got to think about it too. You know what I mean? Y'all not going to live happy ever after. But the last thing I'm going to say, I'm sorry because I get long-winded. The real enemy in this movie, though, is not Tupac. You said that he was the sharpest. He was like the the least amount of trash. Chicago was a dirt bag, and he was a hidden dirt bag. That man put his hands on not one woman, but two. He hit justice as well. You know what I mean? And then want to fight his boy. And this is another part of the whole. Did he ever get to Oakland? And how did he get home? Because Tupac kicked him out.
In my mind, he's still out there.
He's still walking.
Still walking.
Yeah, like that never got discussed. That man is still walking to Oakland, and we have no idea how he got back home because that was his only way there. So we never knew. But yeah, he was a dirtbag. At first, you know, you thought he was a real good dude, but then you start really kind of uncovering like it's shot. You know, that's my hometown. They used to call me Chicago because I used to brush my hair all the time with waves. And it was like, you Chicago. And I was like, yeah, that's not, I don't want to be Chicago no more. Like, I thought that was cool because he always had to brush. He had one wave in that hair. That, and she said it, that little weak ass fade. But he had one wave in that hair, all that brushing, not one wave. But I digress.
Oh, Jeff,
I feel like he's the real villain in this entire movie. He was the one you talking about sharpened edges. When did he get sharpened? Because he got worse and worse as the entire movie progressed.
Oh yeah,
complete dirtbag.
Yes, the fuckboy energy was very strong with that one.
Correct.
And I totally agree. Totally agree. I just yeah. And yeah, well, you know, I'm sorry, I'm gonna give you a chance to talk about if you'd like the grief. Look at grief.
I think Janet Jackson portrayed grief pretty well. I mean, she did the things you would think about with somebody that's grieving and someone that saw something traumatic, because just seeing something like that, like directly happen in front of your face, like, how do you cope with that? How do you move on from that? Regardless if it was your first love or just somebody you just went to the movies with. Like, if I saw that, I'd be done. My mental would be destroyed.
Absolutely.
So just her wearing the black, the poetry was an outlet, but I think people wanted her to come more out of her shell because I guess they felt that it had been long enough. But you can't put a time period on someone's grief. The grief is ever changing. It's like some things you will never get over, and you just day by day. And I don't think people were trying to speed up her process, but I think they was like, okay, we know how you usually are. You're not acting as if how you usually act. So we'll try to say a few things, try to nudge you in the right direction. Because the lady, the boss, she was just like, she cared, but she was like, I'm gonna do me anyway because I'm a boss. So I could care less. Yeah. But I do want you to be well. I care for you, even though you one of my employees, and I want you to get over this and move on so you can, go back to living life. Because it seemed like she was stuck in that moment. She was stuck in that grief. And it seemed like nobody could really move her out of it. And I'm pretty sure, how long had it been? Had it been like a year or 8 to 10 months or something like that? How long did they say a time period for how long it had been since he was shot?
I don't know. And maybe we don't know for a reason. Maybe it was left up to us to be like, has she gone through this a long time or a short time? Like, and how do we feel about her still being in grief? And I totally agree. And I feel like one interesting thing that I actually didn't think about when I was watching this film, but I just thought about this with what Terrell was saying was, putting a timeline on grief. And I think that something that was just quite dangerous was that, Justice was actively in her house, like exhibiting signs of depression. And nobody really talked about it, but they always addressed her grief when it was inconvenient to them. Like when she didn't want to party, when she didn't want to go out with them, when she didn't want to talk to all these guys, when she didn't really want to go on the mail run or whatever, it was like, oh, well, you don't want to do this because, you need to get over what happened. And it's like,
so insensitive.
Yeah, sometimes like friend groups, and I don't even think they do this with malice, but I just think that it's
Yeah.
just human nature to kind of do this. But
Yeah.
it was like, we know that you're still like bothered by this. You are still dealing with this tragedy, but it's like, you need to get over it so you can hang out and party with us. You need to get over it so you can go do this with us. You need to get over it so I don't have to see you moping around looking sad anymore and wearing black. It was like, I don't want to see you being sad anymore, so you need to get unsad. It nobody was like, I'm worried about you.
Yeah,
I'm
true. Yeah, you're right.
So, but yeah, well, let's we getting real deep. So let's go a little lighter. I have a question for you guys. Did Janet Jackson convincingly play a hood girl? Terrell?
Yes, she from Gary. He was Gary is hood. He grew up in Gary.
Hold on now. He's up off the Midwest now. Hold up on that.
Oh Lord, look, you know.
Come on now. We all know Gary is
definitely
hood.
hood. Definitely hood.
And she grew up with all them siblings. Oh, in one house? Come on now. That wasn't no 10-bedroom house. That was so she
grew up
about the hood. Even though they got out early.
she grew up rich. She was young when they started getting on. Whatever.
But you still remember those early days.
Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna say Janet Jackson absolutely convinced us, but here's the thing. It wasn't the typical hood girl. I feel like she was a girl that grew up in the hood but had some sense about herself, right? And growing up on the south side of Chicago, you got a lot of those, you know what I mean? Where it's like, you got to think, she had a lot of things going. She had her own place. She had her own car. She was employed, you know what I mean? Like, she had things going for herself. So, you know, she wasn't just a typical hood girl that just loved and prided herself on being hood. But in terms of the actress, singer turned actress, Janet Jackson did, you know, kind of have this stigma about herself, and all the Jacksons, that they had to be perfect, that they couldn't really, you know, have imperfections and things of that nature. So she definitely was able to commit to the role. And I feel like she definitely did a good job of being a bougie yet chic kind of ghetto girl. You know what I mean? She still had a little, that fine ghetto girl that you like, she ain't got a crazy name. It ain't Taquanisha. You know what I mean? But Justice is a good medium. Good medium. She probably went to a community college. You know what I'm saying? Got a little associates. You know what I'm talking about? And yeah.
So she was Bougetto. Okay.
Bougetto. For sure.
Okay. For sure. Well, I do agree. And so, like, I think Janet Jackson, I don't think that Janet Jackson portrayed a hood girl the most accurately. I mean, and look, I was, you know, not raised in the hood, so hey, baby, I don't know better. But like, I do think that what you said, Jeff, like, there were some lines that she delivered where I was like, God, she sounds really awkward saying that. And I'm like, what are you calling a buster? And I was like, you, Janet, you. Oh, so, so, but then I thought about it. I was like, you know what? It did sound awkward because honestly, she is like the sore thumb that sticks out in this narrative. Like, you know, she's like surrounded by poverty and drug addiction and gun violence, and she's writing Maya Angelou level poetry. So I think that, and I don't even know if that was intentional, but her playing this character, it was odd, but it was odd in a way that was like, okay, well, that makes sense because she is, you know, the odd man out, the sore thumb that kind of sticks out. So sure.
Productive member of society. But I will, not even trying to get deep again, but I will say this: never judge a book by its cover. And all seriousness, like, I got friends that grew up in the slums, and shout out to my best friend. He lives in Vegas. His name is Jason, like my brother. And if you hear about all the killings and all the negative connotations that come from Chicago, he and his family were raised in a part of Chicago where they had every opportunity to be the stereotype of that neighborhood. You know what I mean? And just kind of giving. So many people be like, "Well, look what I was raised in, and I ain't never gonna be nothing because this is what I come from." But they defied all the odds. All of them are not only thriving, but they're all married with children. And, he's a detective now, you know what I mean? So I always like to, I have so many examples, like one of my mentors, you know what I mean? Like, even though sometimes you might be brought into whatever the circumstance, you don't have any control of that, but you do have control over where your life is going. And everybody has pro-choice, you know what I mean? So you can either choose to succumb to your circumstances, or you can dare to dream and get out of your circumstances and, invest in yourself and better your life and, do whatever. And whatever that looks like, you know what I mean? You don't have to be, speaking the King's English and be highly educated to be successful and, be a thriving member of society. You know what I mean? You could still be a bougetto, you know what I mean? To, still have something that, is working for you. So, again, like I told you before in the beginning, it's some layers in there. You got to dig deep to find some of these meanings, but it's not just all bad, negative connotation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I totally agree. So yeah, let's talk about, and to jump back to the beginning, y'all. I don't know what it is about me. Maybe I'm just crazy or slow, and that's fair. But whenever Poetic Justice comes on, and then this movie with Billy Zane comes on, I'm like, is this the right movie?
Oh yeah, when first starts, yeah. When it first starts, yeah.
Yeah, because it's
like Terrell said, it was beautifully done because it throws you for a loop. Like, what am I? Because you start off one way and then you're hard right to the other way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It gets me every time. Like, but one thing I did notice on this watch was that, so I'll preface it by saying another thing that I enjoyed about this film is just like this whole like juxtaposition type stuff. And like in the very first scene, so we have Billy Zane and Lori Petty in this fake movie, and there's romance in the beginning, and then just like with Justice and her boyfriend, there's romance going on, and then all hell breaks loose when he's shot. But they're shooting in the movie too, and it's just like this black white thing. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool how John Singleton did that. Like, and it's like how violence is viewed differently when the skin color is different.
Good point.
Yeah,
See what you did there. You're really poetic on this episode. I see that. Okay. No, seriously. Indeed. I like it. Okay.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, they shooting in the parking lot. They shooting on the screen too, and it was just like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
A little bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah, and then like we get like those beautiful scenes of which I was like, there had to have been a better highway for them to take. It looked like they took the long scenic route. And I was like, well, okay. But we did get those beautiful scenes. Like we had no idea the chaos that was going on in that mail truck, but it sure looked beautiful driving up that highway and all those scenes with the ocean and all of that stuff. So that, and then just like basically like what I was saying earlier and what you were just, talking about how this poetry against this violent backdrop, just like, we have the poetry recited and you hear the whirling of the helicopters and the police sirens and stuff. And I was like, okay, that's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I got a question for y'all.
Yes. All right.
So would the movie completely be different had Q-Tip actually got in the car, follow his intuition, like, yo, I just saw the guys that I got into it. Sorry, babe, we got a rain check. We got to get up out of here, and drove off? Because one might argue that two hormonal teenagers, because anytime that a man can forget about a whole gang beef because he about to get laid, that just goes to show you like legit 2 hormonal teenagers. He was like, "What? Forget what I was talking about. You about to take off this blouse?"
Yeah, he was like titties.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
like, dude, you about to get killed. But okay.
So my question is, just being devil's advocate, is Justice going through so much grief because she feels partly responsible for killing her boyfriend?
Okay. Do you want to answer and then kick it to one of us?
Now y'all can go ahead.
Okay.
I'll chime in last. That just came to me right now.
Terrell?
Okay. I believe so, yes. Because the only reason he got out of the car was because Justice sent him on them errands, because she really, I guess she wasn't in the mood, or she wasn't feeling it, or she didn't feel like it at that time. And then when he came back, then the mood totally changed, everything switched, and then it was like it was over. Just as quick as it started, it was over. It was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure she feels like if I hadn't sent him out, they wouldn't have saw him. We would have stayed in the car, watched the movie or did whatever, and then that would have been the end of it, and we would have went home and still been together. But that's not what happened. You was like in a little funk, had a little attitude, and was like, go give me some jujubes and some popcorn. I was like,
popcorn and jujubes. So I don't eat neither one of them together no more. No, just playing.
Because bad things happen when you do. I feel you.
So yeah, I think she feels responsible, and I mean, who wouldn't? Because, like I said, if you hadn't sent him out there, they wouldn't have saw him. They wouldn't have came and shot him, because they wouldn't have known he was there. Because that one guy, he wanted him to be him so bad. He was like, "No, that's him. No, that ain't him. No, that's him." He was like, I was like, man, I'm trying to play Street Fighter. Y'all tripping.
Well, I think that it's just a testament to how grief can be just very layered. Obviously one dealing with this tragedy that happens, like you said, right in front of her face. I mean, she was covered in his blood. But then also, just the feeling of being responsible, just the guilt of it. One, they shouldn't even been in that area. And two, just, yeah, she did. But, and then the thing is, it's funny how, and probably her depression was like motivated by guilt. And I get that. And it's crazy how depression and guilt can do that, because what she asked him to do was a completely normal thing. Go and please get me some popcorn. Go and please get me something from concession. And it resulted in him being seen and being killed. And of course, any normal person would carry that guilt with them. It wasn't her fault. We level-minded people at this point, to a certain extent, I guess, would be like, it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. But imagine going through that. Yeah, you would carry that with you and be like, we shouldn't have been there. I mean, probably even to, we should have stayed home. We shouldn't even gone out. Like, grief and trauma can just be a very layered thing.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with both of you guys. I think that, she might feel all of the emotions, you know what I mean? But I guess the bigger thing is, and I guess this is one of those things that is code of the streets, if you will. If you're dating a drug dealer, you got to know that it's not the safest boyfriend selection. You know what I mean? So if it wasn't that day, it's going to be another day. You know what I mean? So, it's kind of one of those. And I never understood. I'm not even speaking on my past traumas and everything like that, because I was always that guy that got dumped for being too nice, or the husband type, or the boyfriend type. I'm just kind of going through my bad boy phase right now. So women go through that, you know what I mean? Where they like, oh, he's a drug dealer. Cool. You know what I mean? It's an excitement, unfortunately, within our culture that, women are attracted to bad boys, and women are attracted to, and I mean, that's in any culture too, but specifically, drug dealers and gangbangers and things of that nature within our culture. And, it kind of sucks because the guy next door, you know what I mean, is like, but I thought you was going to play with my froggy. You know what I mean? So
not to meet her.
But yeah, you know,
God.
it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, well, you know, again, through that growth and maturity and things of that nature, like maybe, and she even mentioned that in her conversation with Lucky with Tupac, like I only dated one drug dealer. Like, don't put me in that box that these are the only type of men I go after. And I feel like that opened the door for Lucky and maybe changed her mind. Whereas I can feel safe enough to move on to the next guy. And this is a working guy. He's going through things as well, but he's not that typical bad boy. But, you know, he will protect me. I do feel safe and things of that nature, yada, yada, yada. And I just inherited a whole, you know, stepchild.
Yeah.
That also just.
I don't know how good Lucky would be at protection though, because Chicago was getting him.
He was.
Chicago was handling him.
To be honest with you, he almost got beat up twice. Tone Loc helped him at the house.
Oh yeah, because he was getting handled at the house too. Yeah.
And definitely Chicago threw his little ass like a real little twig rag doll. Boom, boom. And he got back up.
This story that Tupac really couldn't fight like that.
Yeah, I mean he was slew foot. You saw them feet just moving like that, so that's probably why.
Really was.
Yeah. He was like, because they said Michael Jackson slid on him one time. You know,
I can believe it.
Yeah, people they sleep on Michael Jackson, but you know, hey,
you ain't bad.
You ain't nothing.
You ain't nothing.
Bye, Jeff. Log out for me. Well, yeah.
So yeah, maybe Mailman was maybe the perfect thing for him at that time because you know, if you in the hood and you can't fight, because you see when when after he got off of work, and the guys rolled up, he was like, "Yeah, all right, then I'll see y'all later." He wasn't about to go ride with them because I'm pretty sure they were like, "Oh, you down? You ready to come with us to go find out who shot little Tim on across the way?" And he was like, "No, I'm gonna go on in the house." Yeah. So he knew that wasn't his life. That wasn't his calling in life. He was like, mailman, I can't fight. I can't do much of nothing else. So let me just deliver this mail.
But you know what? Okay, y'all ain't just gonna talk bad about Lucky now.
Okay. You were talking bad about him. You call that man top of the trash heap.
But I said he was the top. Y'all done pushed him down to like at least the mid-level of the trash. Now y'all
I told you.
But I will say this. One thing that I do like about the Lucky character, right, is that and I can't speak for you, Jeff, because you grew up in Chicago. But me and Terrell grew up in the South in the country. Mm-hmm. The only thing that we knew about California was that Disneyland was there and that they had a whole lot of gang members. And people in Compton, they died frequently. And so and so that in the 90s, that was the reputation that came out of living in Southern California. It was it had a lot of gang violence and a lot of police presence and a lot of gang members, and it was just that. But
and
you know,
Tony. That's it.
Yes, and it doesn't rain there at all.
It does not rain there.
So, but yeah, and I one thing I do like about the Lucky character is that he was not an ideal partner or ideal man. However, I felt like he represented a demographic in Southern California that people didn't talk about. Because all of the movies that, you know, Boys in the Hood from the same director, I mean, it was like hood violence and that was it. But to be fair and a little more accurate, yeah, there was a lot of gang members and a lot of gang activities. However, that was only maybe a certain small percentage of the Black people or just people of color that lived there. Anyway, most people were people that were trying to live, trying to work, trying to raise families, trying to just survive. Yeah. And I felt like that was a good representation because he was obviously a part of that life because he lived in it. He grew up like these gang members, and he knew them. They knew him, and they respected him.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, because I remember when I watched this movie, like rewatching it to prepare for this episode, excuse me. I was like, when the car pulled up, and I was like, I can't remember. Did they ask him to go with him
They
with
didn't
them
ask
or not?
Yeah, they did.
But they didn't.
Oh, they did ask
No,
him.
no, they didn't ask him. They said they were like,
Oh yeah.
"Hey, we about to go do this," and he was like, "Well, y'all have a mighty fine day," and walked off. They respected him enough to not even come to him with that. It was just like, look, this would, but they respected him and trusted him enough to tell them what they were going to do, but respected him enough to not even ask him to join them because they knew Lucky cool, but he ain't that cool.
Yeah.
So
like when it hit the fan, you're not calling Lucky.
Yeah,
definitely what you guys said, like from a bird's eye view, because that is literally, there's a lot of I won't say synergy, but there's a lot of similarities in terms of Chicago's inner city as well as LA, especially in the 90s. Like from, just the colors that we couldn't wear to, even like different brands of clothes. Like if you had a starter coat and it was different colors, then that means you were a part of this gang and affiliation. But one of the things that I will say it spoke to, people that come from like backgrounds like mine in terms of the inner city, there is a level of respect. So even though, like that's not your lane, if you will, what I mean? Like I'm living in the same neighborhood. I know what so-and-so is on, what I mean? Like I know who he is and what he does, but that's not my lane. That's not what I do. I just live here, what I mean? Whatever the case may be. And you'll actually get similar stories. Like I was just mentioning my best friend in Vegas, like all of his brothers and sisters, college degrees, what I mean? Married, no baby mamas and everything, their wives, their husbands, their, things of that nature. So it is one of those things where if you can quote unquote make it out of your circumstance, you really have your best intentions for your life. If you really get, opportunity and take full advantage of your opportunity, then your life is what you truly make it. You are not born with a scarlet letter on your back because you were born into bad circumstances. You know what I mean? Just because you were born in the hood. Like sometimes you're just born into a family that did the best that they could do, you know what I mean, in those circumstances. And then all you could do is the best that you can do to better your life and so forth and so on. So I think that's the unique thing about life is that everybody is given an opportunity to make the best of themselves, no matter what the circumstance is. So, if we fast forward to 2025, where does Lucky and Justice live? You know what I mean? Like, did they move into her house? Because, Lucky was living at his mom's house, you know what I mean, with his daughter. Now that he got a steady girlfriend, they're both employed. And she has her own place. Maybe they all moved under her house. And you know what I mean? Like, again, you never know, even though it started off rough, where they are now. Maybe they got married. Maybe they have their own kid now. You know what I mean? So they got a blended family now. You never know. So it's a lot of different, stories within society that, even though they come from a certain background, we never know, even though it's not the fairy tale version, it's not a Disney movie, but it could be, a movie that they did, finally figure some things out about life. Hopefully, somebody then stopped over at therapy along the way and got a little bit of sit down conversations on the couch, worked out some of their issues. But I think that they had the recipe to kind of make a good life for themselves because they had some things going for themselves. So
yeah, we need a where are they now? Where is Lucky and his yamp? Where's his?
They really tried to get that going, and it just wasn't going to take off. Unfortunate.
Yeah, they tried to make fetch happen, and it didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Some things was able to get by, but Yamp was not one of them.
Yeah. Put that back in the trash heap. Under Lucky. We have any final thoughts? Any final questions?
I will say I thought that the dynamic between Lucky and Tone Loc was something you don't normally see. Most of the time when it's
wasn't it beautiful?
Baby fathers, it's usually some type of animosity or some type of beef, but they seem like they had a real good camaraderie, and it was like, okay, if you don't got it, I got it. If you can't pick up here, I can pick it up here. Even though Lucky didn't want him to, he still was like, it was a respect thing between those two. And that was
parenting at its best with crackheads.
Yes.
Hey, what other choice do you have but to come together? Because Ooh, that was chaos central.
Well,
But
my
yeah,
thing is, why would you
right.
leave your child with her? Period. I wouldn't let her babysit. I wouldn't let her watch her while I went across the street to the store real quick. Because she was just trifling. I'm like, God dang, you got 2 baby daddies, both of your kids, and you locked up in the room with just
Wait,
some
did you
guy.
see it? Did you see the little boy said, "Take me too"?
Yeah, I felt bad for a little. I was like,
I did too.
I wanted him to take me too up out of the scene because this is chaos. Yeah, take me too. It was yeah. That was a lot. But hey, maybe in sunnier times. What was her name? Toya? Whatever. She was a young.
No, she was a
prominent. Yeah. Okay.
She needed to get left behind, just like the word.
I tried.
Rehab.
I tried. Well,
this is my final thought. Is it just illegally custody that Tupac has? Because like you just can't really just take the child from the mother. I mean, if he goes to court, he's winning that case night and day. But all I'm saying is he just illegally just stole the child from the mother. So
but how do you fight that?
I don't think she
hey,
was gonna tell anybody.
Yeah,
she probably was happy. It's like one gone.
But I mean, well, how do you explain, officer? He came, he found a crack pipe in my house, and he took my child. So I mean, I don't know. But yeah, but well, let's move into best worst weirdest. Terrell, you want to take it first? Best worst
Sure, all right. Okay, the best part of the film was I enjoyed the cast a lot. I enjoyed the music in the movie a lot. Yeah, so that was the best part of the film. The worst part of the film was there definitely were a lot of loopholes, a lot of plot holes, a lot of things where you'd be like, that don't sound right. That wouldn't happen. So that was the worst. And no, that's weird. Oh, the weirdest part of the film was what was weird about the film? The weirdest part of the film was that nobody at that family reunion knew who they were. Like if you're a family member, somebody's going to know who you are. There ain't no family that big. Just 4 random strangers show up without their family reunion shirts on, and they like, good Pete. like that's not gonna happen. Especially the elders being there. The elders know everyone. Like, there's no, you're not sneaking in the family reunion with the 3 elders sitting right there. Like, because they already knew something wasn't right there. Like, something
and
ain't
Black
right.
Friday, everybody just eating their food either. Like you'd be like, whose child is that? Kids get it the worst. So whose baby is that? All in the mashed potatoes and the potato sauce. Like, no, come on over here. Like, where's your parents? You can't just go over there and fix yourself a plate in any Black family. So
and nothing says I didn't pay my family reunion dues like not wearing a t-shirt. So wait a minute now, did you pay your dues to attend?
Where's your shirt?
All this food, where's the
dues? And try to get a plate to go. Come on, Lucky.
Right.
You was doing
see how big his plate was, though? Bro, you are a diabolical character. That man had sky high 2 hands. I said, man.
Yes. So, all right, Jeff.
Yeah, my best weirdest.
I think we all covered it. You know what I mean? The best parts, the weirdest parts. I think, like I said, the weirdest parts would be like just the inconsistency of the plot, like in terms of just like what was the overall message of the movie. I still struggle with that to this point. We brought up some really good interpretations of what we thought, but it wasn't really clearly explained in terms of like, why are we like, okay, cool. We jump started into this story of a love story that was going one way, now ended a different way. But what do we get from it? Like, if there was a Poetic Justice 2, what is the plot that carries over to it? You know what I mean? So that, I guess that's the weirdest part for me. Again, we also don't know about a lot of the characters. So what happens to Chicago and his girlfriend, right? Because she got put out too. She stopped messing with her, and you're drunk just like my mama. You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, so what happened to her? You know what I mean? Like, what Regina King's character, what happens to her? Does she get back on the straight and narrow, or is she just a lost cause? Is she now, you know what I'm saying, the alcoholic instead of the, base head? Is she the alcoholic that's now the baby mama that's the local bus stop for everybody in the neighborhood. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? So there's too many cliffhangers on these characters. I ain't like it. And then, you know, I just want to know if Chicago made it back home because he can't come back to Chicago. Like we taking his name as a board member of the Chicagoans. I'm letting you know we disassociated with that boy. He is not one of us. He's not like us. Like
you take the woman, and you take his brush. Now he can't even go back home.
Can't even go back home. And I don't even know why they called him Chicago, because was he from Chicago?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Too many logos. Weird. That's what I'm saying.
It was like,
he
Chicago. We'll roll with
it. He was such an not just a terrible character, but just such an uninteresting character as well. Like, I didn't care to know anything about him. And this was even before he really started giving off the fuckboy stink that he gave off. Like, it was just like, I don't like you. And I'm not gonna like you.
Never dressed a man with corduroys and long sleeve shirts in the summertime. Never. With Jordans.
Yeah, fair enough.
It was hot. I ain't even gonna say that. It was too hot.
Bro, what?
It was hot out there.
Talk about
he wasn't like he was.
Bro, you know he was musty, bro.
Uniform.
He was absolutely musty. Not even just stinking. He was his BO wasn't off. He was musty. That's a different level of funk. And I just don't appreciate the fact that he was wearing corduroys in 90-degree weather. But that's just my 2 cents.
Post Chicago.
A lot of friction.
He's still out there walking, and you know he musty by now. He had to walk 15 miles.
Correct.
Yeah. And that was the longest 15 miles. It was the longest 15, because by the time they got there, it was dark.
And you know anybody picked his black ass up.
No,
not at all. He might have never made it out the mountains.
No.
Yeah. He probably still out there just wild and feral, just out there.
Him and his brush.
Yeah. Like holding it like a spear. Like, oh shit. Okay, my best words weird is I got a lot of best. The ensemble cast, like, but weren't the 90s a fun time to be alive? I mean, goodness, these movies, like, they will stack up these cast members, and you know, in the beginning, like, Q-Tip's in the movie, and he get killed in like the first 2 minutes. So like, dang, if they gonna kill Q-Tip, who this is gonna be a wild ride, you know? Because they could have really got a nobody to play that, but they didn't. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, just the ensemble cast, seeing Tupac and Janet, their chemistry, gosh, that was really good. Even though there's some like toxicity and trauma and all that stuff, they did have really good chemistry on screen, and that was a joy to watch. The worst would be just how we're as an audience, we're supposed to accept that Lucky is the good guy and Chicago's the bad guy, or like just or the drug dealers are the bad guy, but Lucky's a good one. And it's like, Lucky's just a bad guy who doesn't own a gun, and that's really it.
That was it. He just didn't have a gun.
He has a job. He's in the. Yeah, I'm in the union. I was like, dude, okay.
Levels.
Yes. So, but you know, hey, this is what we were given. These are the tools in our toolbox, as Terrell so eloquently put it. So they yeah. So that would be the worst. The weirdest was I would say that the weirdest would be I don't know. I'm thinking. Oh,
if you got to think that hard, then you already know. Too many weird ones in there.
I thought I would come up with something very quickly. I guess I should have practiced and studied and broke that down. But I don't know.
Put it in your notes.
Put it in my notes, in my handy dandy movie notes template. See, we are official, guys.
I can give you a weird one.
All right.
If you want to use this, when you mentioned it earlier about there was a lot of overtones, like there was definitely some LGBT moments. What was on the phone call? What was that bad news? Like the foreshadowing was like he either got a call from the clinic and he got the results back from his test that he got AIDS, or we don't know. That also is a weird one. That was like, okay, we built you up, and then we don't know nothing about that character. You know what I mean? So again, a lot of loopholes. So if you would like to borrow that one as a weird one, you can say that.
That is actually on my list of things to talk about, but I was like, oh, not talk about it because I wanted to talk about like the queer representation and those queer coded characters in the beginning. But yeah, it would have been nice to have that scene fully fleshed out and we know, but then also it was kind of like, well, we can guess what kind of bad news he got, but in the end, it really ain't none of our business.
Right.
So
yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah, I'll take it. Thank you. So, well, you guys, did you enjoy Poetic Justice rewatching it?
I didn't mind it.
I didn't mind.
I don't ever mind watching a Tupac movie. Yeah, a movie with Tupac. I'm like, I'll watch it.
Well, let's go into happy hour. Terrell, what character would you have a cocktail with?
See, I am having a cocktail with. Who am I having a cocktail with? Okay, let's see. I'm gonna have a cocktail with Lucky.
Okay.
Just see how talk to him, see how he's able to stay above the fray, kind of keep himself on the straight and narrow, stay out of trouble, because I know trouble is easy to find, hard to get out of. So, and he seemed like he landed a decent job. Not easy to work at the post office, even harder now. So, see how he was able to, keep his life straight and keep it moving and become a little successful. Even though his mama didn't seem like that was a good job for him to have, and I was like, what do you want him to actually be doing? It seems like a good job in 1993.
Yeah. And he was in the union. I mean, what can you ask for? What more can you ask for? Jeff, who you having a cocktail with?
You know what? I'm gonna be just all the way off the rails because nobody showed the love in this movie. I'm gonna have a cocktail with the salon owner.
You just want to smell her punani.
Just to see, how it's, how is it like being an entrepreneur raising all these employees that she has adopted as children. She was the surrogate mother to all of her employees at the shop. She's in everybody's business. So I'll sit down with her and see what's going on. Not to date her, because she looks like she's a head case all on her own, but just to pick her brain to see how did she land into that position. So definitely don't want to smell her punani because she needed a breath mint. I took Tupac's word on that. So,
oh my
God. Good on that.
Well, I'm having a cocktail with Tone Loc's character because I thought he was hilarious. I thought he was so funny.
Always hilarious.
He was also a drug dealer. He was a kind drug dealer.
Yeah.
Took that poor crackhead change and everything.
He was. And him talking about that damn change. He was like, what I look like, a slot machine? No.
And then the next person came with change as well. So obviously it was an abundance of change in LA.
Yeah.
These crackheads was picking it up left and right.
Right. It was like Vegas. But yeah. Okay, well, any final thoughts before we close out?
I think we killed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, guys.
All right. Well, that's our show. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We had a great time discussing Poetic Justice, and we hope you enjoy listening to our thoughts. And if you want to know more about Sips and Scripts, you can head over to our website, sipsandscriptspodcast.com. And please give us a follow on social media. We are at Sips and Scripts Podcast on Instagram. So if you want to share your thoughts or suggest a movie, an episode, let us know. Drop us a line on social media. And as always, the best way to help our show is word of mouth. So share our episode
Yes.
with a friend, share it on your
Sure.
socials. We appreciate it. And yeah, so thanks for joining us. And until next time, cheers, everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cheers.